Hello, I'm Dr. Phillips from History Mentor, and today I'm going to talk to you about subjectivity and objectivity in history. It's to do with your approach to the subject and just how your approach to the subject affects your research and your outcomes. So it's very important. First of all, let's look at the concepts of subjectivity and objectivity. The idea behind objectivity is that it's possible for you to come to a neutral conclusion, and that the evidence is not biased or subjective at all. And that is quite commonly seen as a good thing, as opposed to subjectivity, which means that the outcomes are determined by the way in which you look at the various sources and the approach that you take, and which is heavily influenced by a preconception that you may have. Now then, in my view, and it is my view, it's not necessarily a good thing for a historian to have an objective view. First of all, I don't believe that it's possible to be objective when it comes to history, and is not even desirable. Why do I say such a thing? Well, history is about opinions. If you are objective, you never reach a definitive opinion about anything. And there would be, if there was just objectivity, there would be hardly any need to ever rewrite history books at all. Of course, they have to be written occasionally when new evidence comes to light, either because record officers reissue documents that were previously classified. But the whole point of history is that it's a debate between different historians based on the evidence that they use to support their view. So having an opinion is a good thing. What we need to consider is that where you do need to be subjective, though, is when you look at your evidence. What does that mean? Well, it means, for example, if you've got an opinion, and normally when we're trying to research a subject, we have a preconceived idea of what the outcome will be, or we look at it in a certain way. And that means that when we're doing the research, we are looking for evidence to support our preconception. What we need to do to be subjective, we can be subjective with the methodology, is to make sure that we look at as much evidence as possible, and also that we don't ignore evidence that goes against our preconception. If we really want to reach some sort of truth, then we need to consider things that go against our preconceptions, as well as things which support it. In fact, that's a sign of good history, that you look at things which go against what you believe, and you try to explain it. When that doesn't mean, of course, that your view is invalid. It's just because you find a few things that are against it. But what you base your opinion on is the balance of the evidence that's available. So it's possible to look at sources and four of them say one thing, and one of them says another, and that because of that one person who said something, it doesn't mean that what the other four said is invalid or has less importance. It also doesn't mean that one person is wrong, because you can have a case where a lot of evidence, a lot of sources say the same thing, but regardless of, we can't deal just on quantity, because maybe those sources are quoting each other, and it's possible that one person's view, one person who has a different view, is actually the correct view. This is something you have to make a judgment on. And it's I think, the most important and exciting thing about history is that you can make judgments like this, and hopefully someone else will respond. It's important. This debate in history has been going on since the beginning of time, and this is why what makes history fresh. That you do get different opinions, and that's the whole idea of history: to create debate, not to create some perfect view of history, an authentic view or definitive history of an event. That was the theory of subjectivity and objectivity, but how do we apply it to looking at a source? First of all, when we take a source, we have to consider where it was produced, who it was produced by, for what reason it was made. The country that it was created in can give us an idea of the general environment, and the time also influences what the source was created for. All of those things have an influence on whether it is possibly subjective or objective. There will always be a certain amount of subjectivity, and as I said, that that's a good thing. Often, questions will ask you about the usefulness of sources. A source can be just as useful if it's subjective as if it's supposedly objective. For example, quite often tables of statistics are considered to be objective, but people, of course, forget that behind those statistics, somebody has decided what to focus on, which means that even a statistical table can be objective. But it can still tell us something about the ideas of the people behind those sources that created them. And so all sources can be useful in one way or another, either to tell us about what we're trying to research or what the people who created them were thinking, or their own opinions. All right, I've talked to you a little bit about subjectivity and objectivity in history and how we can use it in our approach to history. If you'd like to know more, you can contact me at historymentor@teachers.org, or visit my website, historymentor.co.uk. I'm very welcome. I welcome any questions you may have, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you.